Hey everyone, welcome to the Microsoft Expert Community Sessions. This is a channel where we bring the best Microsoft experts to help educate and inspire you to get the most out of Microsoft technologies. We try to cover the most relevant topics and best practices of the day, from administration, governance, security, Copilot, Microsoft 365, and everything in between. So if you have suggestions for any future topics, then please let us know. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with the latest and greatest of content. So, all right, my name is Paul Sutton. I am part of the Saracen team. And for those who don't know who Saracen is, we build a market-leading Microsoft 365 service desk that natively integrates into Microsoft Teams. If you want to learn more about the product, then please go to saracen.com and look for the ticket product. Joining me today is Sara Fennah, who is a Microsoft certified trainer and most valuable professional for Microsoft. Sara is very well respected in the community, and it's great to have her back. It's been a while since we last did a community session, so thank you again for taking time. And today, Sara is presenting about how to maximize your AI investment whilst keeping Microsoft Teams meetings secure. This is, of course, very relevant as we all use Microsoft Teams. We're in it every single day. We're even using Microsoft Teams to do this recording, so it's extremely relevant. I'm extremely excited and interested to learn more about this. So, Sara, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you for the introduction. You made it, so I don't really need this next slide, but this is me. Obviously, the AI generated version of me. And I, as Paul said, am focused on training Microsoft 365, Copilot, all of those goodness that we have available to us. But today, we're going to talk about AI in meetings. So Copilot in Teams meetings is basically the hero feature of Microsoft 365 Copilot. It's the one that really saves us the time, those meeting recaps, capturing the notes, the decisions, the tasks. And if you miss the meeting, meaning you don't have to go back and spend all of that time running through the video. It always seems to take longer to watch a video than to sit in a meeting live as well. And that is just such a time-saving feature that it's become probably the most popular Copilot feature in the Microsoft 365 space. But some meetings have very sensitive topics. Organizational secrets, financial forecasts, what's happening next, and you don't want those to leak out. So what's the trick? How do you use Copilot without losing your crown jewels, all that really sensitive data? So we'll start from what Copilot offers us. Microsoft have a strong emphasis on data security in their AI products, and they offer us the guarantee that your data is your data. So we have what they term enterprise grade security, enterprise data protection working in AI, in all of the AI products. For Microsoft 365 Copilot, that means they do not use our data to train any of the AI models. No one outside of our organization has any visibility of our data. All of the permissions are honored within your environment, and admins have those auditing tools as well. So if we've got all of this super fantastic offering around data security, then what is it and how does it apply to our Teams meetings? And that's the purpose of today. So when I'm talking about AI-powered meeting features, I'm not just talking about Copilot though. We have some standard AI features in Teams meetings: noise cancelling, voice isolation, closed captions, translated captions, lots of different things, and even my virtual background. Okay, some of these features are included in standard. Some of these features we need the add-on license, and there are two add-on licenses that unlock additional features in Teams for our Teams meetings, and that's Teams Premium and of course Copilot. Okay, now if you've got all of the features available to you, this is what it looks like in your meeting. And I've put little red boxes around the AI features. So we can see at the top corner here, we've got the 2 stars for AI showing me that Copilot is working in my meeting. It's actually the bit that we call the facilitator agent there that's working away. My notes have got the little AI stars on them as well, that notes button, again, showing that the facilitator agent is making those notes for me. And I've got access to the Copilot button, and I can chat to the facilitator agent in the chat. Now, the difference between Copilot through the Copilot button itself and facilitator agent through the chat is that everyone in the meeting can see the meeting chat. Only you can see your conversation with Copilot. So if I've got somebody without a Copilot license in the meeting, this is what they see. So they can see the AI is working on this meeting. They can see the notes have some sparkling automation powered by Copilot in it, and they can see that same conversation in the meeting chat with the facilitator agent. Okay, so if the meeting organizer has a Copilot license, we can all benefit to a certain extent from that. Which means if you have any Copilot users in your organization, your meeting security settings are important. I also mentioned Teams Premium, and Teams Premium is an add-on license to Microsoft 365 to Teams, which offers enhanced features in Teams, such as customization of meetings, the protection and security features we're going to look at today, the intelligent recap, the AI reporting on that meeting as well, and some additional performance metrics and reports for your team's environment as well. Extra features for webinars and virtual appointments, which are different styles of meetings in there as well. So Teams Premium isn't for everybody, but if you are somebody who is having a lot of very sensitive meetings, it might be something you want to look into. So protection features that we're going to look at in this session today, covering both standard licensing and those additional features in Teams Premium, are listed out here for you. So we've got the standard features of controlling who can access the meeting through the lobby, the permissions and roles within the meeting, whether meeting chat is available, and assuming you've got that Copilot functionality, whether Copilot is available in your meeting. And then for those really sensitive meetings, we can bring in those premium features, which we'll go through as we look at them in detail. But this allows us to do things like put watermarks on our content. So if anybody does share it, what we've asked them not to, we know where it's come from and we can take appropriate action. Additional encryption options, additional controls around recording and transcription, sensitivity labels to lock down features and protect meeting assets, such as the recording, the transcript, any presentations that are shared in the meeting, and so on. But we can also roll out policy packages to our users, which helps control the settings that they have. and also put in place controls as to what they can share when they're in a meeting with somebody outside of our organisation. And then finally, protecting against unauthorized access. We don't want those ungoverned AI tools in our meeting. So we can put in place verification to block those. And also, if the user doesn't realize they've got content that they want to share in the meeting that is sensitive, Teams can spot that and automatically put in place the appropriate protections as well. So you can see from that, not something every Teams user needs. A lot of our meetings don't contain that kind of sensitive content, but some do. And we need to make sure that we take as many steps as we can to protect that content. Now, most of the features we're going to be looking at today, we access through the meeting options. And I'm sure you've been into the meeting options at some point in your Teams meeting career. After all, most of us have been living in Teams since 2020, so we've probably been in there at some point. But the buttons keep moving, keep evolving. So just to recap where you can access your meeting options from. As I'm setting up my meeting, this screenshot is from setting up my meeting in Teams. Okay, and I've made it a Teams meeting. So I have the meeting options button at the top. If I'm looking at a calendar entry for a meeting I've set up, whether it's in Teams or I'm looking at my calendar through Outlook, I have this meeting options link at the bottom. Again, only if you're the meeting organizer, the person who set it up, can you change those options. And then finally, when you're in a meeting, excuse me, when you're in a meeting, you may have noticed this new controls button. And that controls button accesses the meeting options. You can see the key options there immediately with a view more options at the bottom. You might also be wondering about this add an agenda box I've highlighted at the bottom. If you are going to use Copilot in your meetings, the facilitator agent wants an agenda. And that's the agenda it's looking for, that one that you can set up at the bottom of your meeting invite. It's easier to find if you create or edit your meeting from the Teams client, but it does show up in new Outlook as well. And in terms of the different Outlooks, everything I'm going to show you is accessible from your Outlook meetings as well, your Outlook calendar. So if you're in classic Outlook versus a new Outlook, it really doesn't matter. Okay. Lobby controls. Who can access the meeting? This has been around for a very long time in Teams, but most of us have forgotten about it. Our admins set the defaults for us, and then as we set up each individual meeting, we can come in and control those settings. We can control who can bypass the lobby and access the meeting without us letting them in. And we can also choose who is allowed to let people into meetings. Okay, so think about that. If you're going to have a sensitive meeting, you don't want people starting discussing the content before you as the organizer get there and can take control and ensure it's running properly. So you want to lock it down so perhaps only yourself can access the meeting initially. Maybe only people from your organization if you're bringing in guests, but also bear in mind who can bypass that, who can allow others in. Because we've been conditioned, if Teams goes ping, respond. And Teams pings when people join and sit in the lobby. So if we have the permission to let them in, the temptation is very strong to let them in without checking. So please make sure for those most sensitive meetings that you are controlling who can allow others in. Now, this is talking about not individuals, but their role in the meeting. Organizer, co-organizer, presenter. There's a fourth one, attendee. And you need to be conscious of that as well. And you can set that again in the meeting options, looking at the roles. You can choose other people you've invited to be your co-organizer. You have to invite them first, and then you can come and search for them in here in this list. Okay, and give them the same rights to control and edit the meeting as you've got. And then secondly, who can present? Let me go back a screen. The default is anyone who can present can let someone in from the lobby. So if everyone who comes into the meeting can present, they can share their screen, they can turn their camera on, they can use their microphone, all really good things to have enabled. But they can also admit others from the lobby. So balance those settings with how the functionality you need in your meeting to give you that security as to who is joining your meeting to start with. And then in terms of participation, anyone who isn't flagged as a presenter or an organizer is automatically an attendee. Okay, so if I say only organizers and co-organizers can present, everyone else who's invited to the meeting is an attendee. And now I can start controlling the settings for my attendees, including when my meeting chat is on. Now, meeting chat is where a lot of the side conversations happen in a meeting, but it's also a really easy to see and potentially copy set of content, and where we're discussing sensitive topics, having that sensitive content available may present a risk. And Copilot can use the meeting chat when you're reviewing it. So when do you want your users to jump in? Do you want them to be able to use the meeting chat from before the meeting and ongoing after the meeting has ended? Or do you want that only during the meeting? Or do you want it off? So those are our options: on permanently, before, during, and after; on during the meeting only, or completely off. So think about that. How do you want that to behave? Now, in terms of Copilot on our AI tools, if you have the Copilot license, you will be able to choose the availability of Copilot in your meeting. We have three options: during and after the meeting, only during the meeting, and off. These are the options we set per meeting. Okay. If we have during and after the meeting, then we must transcribe the meeting for Copilot to have data to work from. If we have only during the meeting, Copilot creates let's say, a temporary transcript of the meeting. It's not a full transcript as such because it doesn't store it in the same way. So it's capturing the speech in a text format that Copilot can work on. But that and the history of what you ask Copilot is discarded automatically at the end of the meeting. Okay? Or you can turn it off. Now, if you don't want Copilot to be able to summarize your meeting, you don't need to be able to ask questions of Copilot from that meeting, and you don't want any other users in your organization who are attending that meeting to be able to use Copilot, then you can turn it off. Now, I mentioned the transcript. I don't need to record the meeting. I need a meeting transcript for Copilot. You can have both. Personally, I'm a big fan of having both the recording and the transcript for my meeting, because when I'm watching that meeting back, reviewing Copilot's summary of the meeting, if I need to ask questions or need to look at a section, I've got the visuals to go back to as well. So Copilot will sometimes get things wrong. You may have noticed AI does occasionally come up with something that bears no relationship to reality. I can check the transcript, but that's not always going to tell me the truth either, because that is AI generated from the speech. It may have misunderstood the speaker. So having the recording to go back to, I find incredibly helpful. Also for tone of voice, those visuals, and especially if it's a training session where the visuals are important, that can be really helpful. However, video takes up a lot of space. Yes, we can expire the video and delete it after a certain amount of time. 60 days is the default. But then we lose the transcript as well, and we can't reason with Copilot over it. Copilot can't access that transcript to find information. Video captures people's faces, and there are privacy concerns around that, especially if you're working in an industry where you deal with individuals whose privacy could be really important. Maybe they're in a sensitive role, maybe they're in a difficult position, and they're having their video captured could cause issues. So something else to think about there. Now, before we go on and look at any of the other protections, I do just want to mention that as admins of a Microsoft 365 environment and Teams environment, you do have the ability to set controls. So we can control whether or not our users can create transcripts. Obviously, if we turn the transcript off as an admin, and that is the default setting, transcripts are off by default in the Teams environments. With no transcript able to be created, there's nothing for AI to work on. Okay, so if you've got transcription off, then users cannot have Copilot where the transcript is saved, and Copilot interacts on that saved transcript after the meeting. Now, there's a lot of different permutations from that. So those of you who are watching this with the video, with the slide up on screen, might want to take a screenshot of this. But basically speaking, if users can save the transcript, then all of the Copilot options are available to them. And if they can't, and Copilot is fully permitted, then they can use that temporary transcript option. However, as admins, we can also turn off Copilot. Okay, so it's not just one setting that the admins need to think about. Are you going to allow your users to transcribe and potentially also record meetings? They need that transcription for it to work. And then are you going to allow the users who have the Microsoft 365 Copilot license the ability to use Copilot in the meeting, and when? So two sides to think about. If you have transcription on and you have Copilot set to on, then your admins, your meeting organizers, sorry, can choose the Copilot behavior they want. If you have on with a saved transcript, which is the default Copilot value, and your transcription is on, then it will force your users to have the during and after the meeting option on in their meetings. So it doesn't give them enough flexibility to vary that setting if they're working with sensitive meetings. Okay, so think about those controls, and you can change this because these are policies. So you can have some users in your organization which you block it all for, and others who you allow the full flexibility. There's quite a few nuances to think through there. Hopefully I've talked long enough you've been able to take any screenshots of these slides you want, or of course you can do some further research or come back to us for additional guidance if you have further questions. The other thing to be aware of is the facilitator agent, which is part of the Copilot in the Teams meeting, uses that agenda box that we were talking about in the meeting. That's Microsoft Loop. So Microsoft Loop is another tool that it's on by default, but admins have the ability to turn it off. Now, if you are worried about the data it's capturing and where it's stored, then you have the controls to turn it off. Now, basically, to simplify this, your meeting agenda is stored alongside the user's OneDrive. It's a slightly different storage location, but it's covered by all of the same policies and compliance tools as a user's OneDrive. Okay, so those meeting notes, if you like, we can say they're in a hidden folder in the OneDrive. Oversimplification from a technical standpoint, but good enough to understand where it's going. Okay, so you need to make sure to get the most out of AI, to get the most out of Copilot in your Teams meetings. You're using this agenda, and that requires you to have Microsoft Loop turned on. And then if you want to, you can go to the Loop app and you can see here I've got my meeting notes organized by week, and I can jump in and see all of my meeting notes across that week in one place. So there are some benefits to it as well. Lots of benefits because we get the facilitator agent writing the notes for us when we've got Copilot running as well. Okay, so let's switch back to thinking about the security in the meeting. So every Teams meeting is encrypted, okay? But sometimes that meeting wants that little bit extra security. And this is our end-to-end encryption. So normally when we have a meeting, we walk into the meeting room and we shut the door. If you've got windows on your meeting room when you're discussing something really sensitive, you might close blinds. Okay, you might make sure that all of your refreshments are delivered to the meeting room before you start, rather than having those delivered during the meeting while you're talking about something sensitive. So think about your end-to-end encryption as a bit like that meeting where you've closed the blinds as well as shut the door. Perhaps you might even lock the door to stop people wandering in without you being aware of it in advance. So for that sort of meeting, you would turn on end-to-end encryption. There are some limitations. Okay, you can't use Copilot on those meetings. Okay, you can't use the transcription on those meetings, and it blocks other features as well, such as breakout rooms, translation of captions. You can't use PowerPoint Live, you can't record, you can't use together mode, and various other settings. Okay, but enabled by our admins in the meeting policy, applied to the individual meeting by the user, and effectively blocks any tool that would share information from that meeting to another service in Microsoft 365, giving you total security, but no AI. Watermarking, also enabled by the admins and turned on by the user in the meeting options when you set up your meeting. Watermark is a way of putting a bit of text over either the shared content or people's video feeds to interrupt it. Not to a level that it means it's distracting and detracts from the meeting, but to a level where if screenshots are shared, we know where they came from. It's also possible to customize as an admin what those watermarks are, but by default, everyone sees their own identity as the watermark. Yeah, they see their email address as the watermark. So when I'm looking at it, the watermark has my email on it. When you're looking at it, the watermark has your email on it. And just to give you a bit of a better idea, you can see, looking in a little bit more detail, I'm playing two roles here, but my screen has the watermark on it, my shared screen. My own video down at the bottom there is showing without a watermark because, you know, if I screenshot myself and share my own video, then that's my problem. But the other people, they have the watermark on their video. Sensitivity labels, like the watermark and the end-to-end encryption, are part of the Teams Premium license. But these ones are a little bit more complicated. You also need to have an E5 license to fully apply them. So not many organizations are deploying these because of that high licensing value, but they do automatically lock down features inside a meeting. So I know I'm having a sensitive meeting. I pick the sensitivity label from the meeting options, and it sets all of the other options for me. But if you don't have an E5 license, you can still configure the meetings for your users using templates. So we can set up a template and publish it to our users so they don't need to go through all of these meeting options. So they might say, I'm having a meeting with a customer and it needs to be a closed meeting. Okay, we term it a closed customer meeting. It's a little bit more sensitive. We want to make sure that the lobby is locked down so that people can't find the link and get in, for example. We want to make sure that they can't copy from the meeting chat after the meeting. Yeah. So we've set those options in the meeting options. So when we go to create the meeting, we don't need to go through all of those options. We just pick the close customer meeting from the new meeting button. Now I do need to use Teams to set up my meetings, to use those templates, but it does save me going through all of those options and trying to work out which option I should be picking in this scenario. Whereas if we're doing a community meeting, like a lot of MVPs do, where we're freely and openly sharing knowledge and information and encouraging people to make the most of the products that they've got. We want that open. We want everyone to be able to get in. We don't want any restrictions on that meeting. We're hoping loads of people turn up, so I'm not going to be pressing the lobby button every 10 seconds, letting people in. So let's go for a different template with less controls and call it a community meeting. And we can even lock those controls down, lock those settings down, so the meeting organizer can't change them. If you've chosen a closed customer meeting, those are the settings you've got. We've fixed them. Some things we might let you change. Yeah, we might let you change who the presenters are, because that's probably quite useful in that one meeting. And it might be different from meeting to meeting. But we're not going to let you change the lobby, for example. And that's what we can do with those templates. Arguably more useful than the sensitivity labels and doesn't require the E5 license. Still means Teams Premium though. So other options with the Teams Premium license that we can set through the meeting options, controlling who can record. Okay, so yes, only people who are presenters can record, but we might want to invite people to be able to present, yet don't want them to be the ones that trigger the recording. Okay, so we can lock that down separately. Prevent copying from the chat and transcript. Okay, so we can't take that text, copy and paste it and use that. Again, if it's a really sensitive meeting, we want to make sure that content doesn't get misused. So preventing the copying is really helpful. And even if I present the copying, I can still use AI. So the only feature we've looked at so far that stops me working with Copilot in the meeting is end-to-end encryption. Everything else we can put in place and still benefit from Copilot recapping our meeting. As an admin, we can also lock down whether our users can share content into meetings that are hosted by people outside of our organization. The meeting is owned by the people who set it up, by the organization they are part of. The recording, the transcript is stored in their environment and covered by their security settings, their compliance settings. And we have no control over that information. So if our users can bring up a spreadsheet in a meeting in another organization, they've captured that in a video, potentially in a recording, or they've taken a screenshot of it. And we've lost that data. We've lost control of it. We've still got our copy, but we're not controlling where that's transmitted to and shared to. So it may be you want to think about some users not being able to screen share into meetings. Or detect if sensitive content is shared and immediately apply a watermark to it, or block visibility of it for users that you are not managing. Okay, there's a couple of different options when you turn that on. Another one that I really like that isn't officially documented yet because it's still rolling out is this one, prevent screen captures. So if you take a screenshot, you don't just get the watermark on it, you get a blank screen. Okay, so our users can't, or attendees can't capture screenshots of that sensitive meeting. And actually, as an MVP, we get to attend meetings that are hosted by Microsoft where they're telling us content we're not allowed to share until they publicly announce it. And a lot of these features are now being deployed, so we can't forget and accidentally capture information we shouldn't be sharing and then forget that it's not yet shareable. So very helpful for those of us who may be prone to a little bit of age-related forgetfulness. Either that or we just don't take screenshots and then we can't forget, which is what we're supposed to do. Okay, so a lot of what I've talked about here comes from the meeting policies. Now, this is a little video just showing you how we access the meeting policies. I'm going to go into two ways. This is the new way from settings and policies. And you can see there are lots and lots and lots of settings. Some of them are badged premium, so it's really easy to see which of the Teams premium options. The ones that are not are available to everyone. So you can see we've got lots of controls over what we can do in the meeting, what our users can do in the meeting. Some are really powerful, some you definitely want on for everyone, but you can have multiple policies as well. Now, in this new style, we've then also got the settings which do apply to everyone, which is why they're saying they're not customizable for users or groups. They're standard settings for the whole organization. Now, if I switch back to the older experience in the Teams admin center and access my meeting policy in here, you'll notice most of these settings are the same, still those premium options around content protection, around content sharing, those watermarks as well, and recording and transcribing. But we don't have the standard settings. You can see I've reached the end now, so slightly less. So that first one, through settings and policies, show it all in one place, which is great if you've just got one set of users. So just to come back to where we started, lots of AI-powered features in your meetings. To really take advantage of them, you need the transcript and you need the data for the AI to work on. But do you always want that? We need to use the meeting options to control the settings in the meeting so that we control what information is available to Copilot and isn't available to Copilot. This is good practice. Best practice for our meeting security to prevent too many leaks, to prevent unwanted access to our data, unwanted access to our meetings. Standard good practice. AI is just shining a light on what we need to think about anyway. If you want the most AI features, then we've got Teams Premium and Copilot available to us. Copilot and the meeting recap, which is also in Teams Premium, do need the transcript. And we can control access to that transcript on a meeting by meeting basis if we need to. We haven't in this session gone into a great deal of detail as to what Teams offers you, what Copilot offers you, what Teams Premium offers you, how AI is going to give you lots of useful features. What I focused on is controlling your data and controlling access to that data so that it's available where you need it and blocked where you don't want it. And that's how you get the most of the AI in your Teams meetings whilst keeping your meetings secure. Thank you all for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed it. As we're closing, Paul, any questions for us that have come up?
Well, first off, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. Always great content, and we appreciate you taking time to help explain this, very important and very topical topic to our community, considering how much we all use Microsoft Teams. I mean, I personally live in Microsoft Teams every single day, so it's always good to see the advancements, and obviously AI is such a buzzy subject now, and to see some real tangible benefits, how you articulated it was really good. And in terms of sort of foreseeing some questions that I know the community would have, is I think the classic question, I know you sort of just covered it side by side on the features you get with Copilot versus you don't get with Copilot, but people always sort of juggling budgets, searching for that return on investment. How would you respond to that kind of classic question on, okay, if we spent that money, how do they sort of justify that return on investment?
So it's going to be very different for different people, different customers, because we all work differently. So for me, I spend an awful lot of time in Teams meetings. So having that recap is incredibly useful, and it saves me a lot of time. Meetings I've missed, I can go through the recap. Meetings I've attended, I don't have to take notes. I can go through the recap or ask questions of the recap. And that for me, on average, would save an hour-ish a day.
Wow.
So my question is the license worth the time you save doing that task? And this is why I call Copilot in Teams the hero feature, because for most people, that equation alone makes the money worthwhile investment.
Right. I like that. I like the hero term there. And as you said, I mean, it saves you having to do all these manual tasks and summarize the meeting. That is obviously a great benefit. And then in terms of licensing, I know you touched on that too. If people do have questions around licensing and the costs, what would you say to that?
I mean, again, typical consultant's answer, I'm afraid. It depends. But generally speaking, go to the license provider that you work with. Your Microsoft reseller will be able to advise you on what licenses you have, what the costing is for the number of licenses you want, in addition to the environment that you already have, because there are a lot of variables to take into account. What I will say is Copilot and Teams Premium are both additional to the Microsoft 365 license. They're not included for anyone, unfortunately. And you don't have to license everyone in the organization. So you can pick and choose who it's appropriate for. So bear that in mind while you're having that conversation.
Yeah, and there's a reason why you have these dedicated teams, because there's a lot of Microsoft products and it changes all the time, and these experts will help guide you on what's best. And that's actually great. Just you don't need to have everyone. It can just be more of a subset of people, which obviously keeps costs down.
Yeah, I mean, we all have people in our organization who maybe have 1 or 2 Teams meetings a week.
Yeah.
It's definitely not worth it for them. But if, like you and I, you spend your life in Teams meetings, then there are huge benefits to these meeting AI tools. And I would just say I've focused on the Microsoft ones today. There are other AI meeting tools. If you are going to take any AI tool for anything, I would strongly advise you to look at the data security and data privacy commitments of that tool before you decide to take it on board, not just its functionality, because they're very different across the piece.
That is true. And, obviously being a Microsoft partner with our own Microsoft products, the one thing that does make some of these discussions easier is just the native integration for those types of really important subjects around security, because you're in that ecosystem where sometimes being outside of it, there's just extra, steps. So perfect. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Sarah?
No, I think just really to say I've been working with Copilot in Microsoft 365 as a whole and Teams especially for nearly 2 years now. And I'm astounded daily at how much it's evolving and how helpful it can be, with the proviso that you still need a human to check it because it's not perfect. So it won't do your job for you, but it might help make it easier for you to do your job.
Yeah. And I agree with that. So yes. Okay, cool. Well, once again, I appreciate your time and your wisdom and expertise in helping people explore the world of Teams and, obviously how to maximize it with AI. As you can see on this slide deck, if you do have any questions, then feel free to reach out to Saracen. Best email address is team@saracen.com. And then Sarah's information is down through Linktree. And if there's nothing else, Sarah, then I guess we can call it a wrap. And just thanks again to everyone else.
I think so. And thank you very much, Paul, for having me back. Hopefully,
no worries. Well, thank
we'll
you,
do
Sarah.
it again soon.
Definitely. All right. Talk soon, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.